there's the Dreamworks I know and love.
There it is! There it is!
What's up, Netflix fans? The Wild Robot is now in theaters. Is this one to take your family to? So an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. That's a silly premise. This movie's rated PG for action, peril, and thematic elements. Although this is definitely one to take your family to. Maybe on the younger side, like 3 to 5, there may be some terrifying moments, some imagery in this movie that could definitely freak them out. And we're dealing with something here that may just go completely over kids' heads. Sometimes that's a really good thing with an animated movie, and that is, well, parenthood, for one, but two certain bonds that two creatures, animals, species, a robot can have that feels unbreakable, if you will. And we see numerous examples of that in this movie, not just kind of the main bond, which is a fatherhood, motherhood type of situation, really parenthood in general. That's something I'm fairly new to. I'm only about a year and something into it, but I feel as if those types of movies are going to resonate with me more, and this one absolutely did. But at the same time, it's all about uniting as one, gathering together all of the people that either don't get along or just eat each other for nourishment.
You what?
And you can essentially say, hey, we need to get together and work together for the greater good. Now, that's not something we often see reflected in humanity nowadays. We see smaller examples, but on a large scale, the world that we live in is kind of alarming right now. So to see it represented in animated form so beautifully in such an unexpected way was really awesome. And while I saw the first trailer for The Wild Robot, I said, yeah, it looks cute. Looks like a fun DreamWorks movie for kids. You start hearing the word of mouth about it. Nothing really convinced me. Even going into this film, I'm like, all right, let's see what you got. But what this movie proves to do is, A, it incorporates humor like we want in an animated DreamWorks type of movie. It's not overboard, overwhelming, or overbearing. It's just enough to kind of break the tension every now and then. But two, seeing the humanity in all of these non-human characters, but just showing kindness to each other, and then this beautiful, almost series of montages, if you will, at the beginning of this movie, showing this bond between this robot and a goose. Just the stupidest thing, saying it out loud, but it could bring tears to your eyes.
What is wrong with you?
And I'm just thinking, while I'm watching, I understand you can draw comparisons to movies like WALL-E and The Iron Giant. Now, yeah, there's robots in there, obviously. But what we're dealing with here, and the emotional attachment that we have with those respective characters in those films, that's definitely something you can make a comparison to. But this film feels very different. It's kind of its own thing, which I really enjoy. Comes to us from the director, and actually, I think he's the voice of Stitch. But you look at his filmography, and you've got movies like Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, The First Croods, which was a good one, and I'm like, all right, this makes a lot of sense that this film is very high quality, but you also see a reoccurring theme there to where there is a bond on screen that you just can't look away from, and you can't help but to be so locked in on what's happening between the two. Well, in this case, multiple characters, multiple creatures, yes, the robot and the goose, but also the robot and the fox. Notable voices: Pedro Pascal plays Fink, Lupita Nyong'o plays Roz, Bill Nighy is in this film, Ving Rhames, Catherine O'Hara, Mark Hamill, Kit Connor, and you're watching this thinking, I know that's Bill Nighy, but it doesn't really sound like Bill Nighy. Oh, that's Mark Hamill. But you don't think about that while you're watching because they do such a good job of giving actual performances and sinking into these characters. Now, it helps, you got Chris Pratt playing Mario. We know what Mario sounds like, so when Chris Pratt plays Mario, it's kind of weird. Well, it helps that you don't really know who any of these characters are before the movie starts. That said, it's not that level of star power that overwhelms a film like this, even with a Pedro Pascal, who is a massive star. But you don't feel that. You're just like, oh, that's Fink. And then by the time the credits roll, you're like, no, that was Pedro Pascal. And so, man, oh man, the way they were able to sink into these characters was amazing. And then the way it's brought to life, right? Beautiful stories, beautiful connections, friendships, bonds, bringing all of these creatures together. It's awesome. That's one thing, but to bring it to life in such a gorgeous way, I was seeing comparisons to like Studio Ghibli, and again, brushing it off before the movie starts, but as I'm watching this on the big screen, I'm like, no, that is gorgeous. Like, stunning animation, a fantastic art style across the board. Some of these moments, whether the geese are flying, the butterflies are scattering, the animals are prancing, I mean, regardless of what's happening on screen, and yes, it's a beautiful location, and you have creatures that you can do a lot with that animation, the way they scurry around or fly around, crawl around, whatever, and then of course the robot learning to do all of those things. But it's also just the fact that they're doing it and making it feel that you could pause this, go frame by frame, and each one would look like a painting. That's attention to detail, but it's also something that you have to appreciate it when you see it. And I get a lot of animated movies look stunning nowadays, but another great example being in the wild, and The Wild Robot is just a stunning movie to look at. Amazing voice cast, a beautiful story, especially being able to resonate with a parental story like that now that I am a parent. I can't help it.
Just call me daddy!
Now, a couple of things. It does kind of highlight through some moments in the beginning in the first act, and I thought that was a little odd while it was happening. I'm like, oh, wow, we're already here. Is that it? Is that the story? But it's not the story. We slowly move into what this story actually is, and the third act gives a big action-filled, action-packed payoff that I think a lot of people are going to like, especially younger audiences, and I loved it. I thought it was great. But that's not really the hook. What drew me into this, it's the smaller moments, and hearing Lupita Nyong'o's subtleties come through her performance, bouncing it off a young version of Bright Bill and then an older version of Bright Bill in Kit Connor, and that relationship, man, just so many beautiful things in this movie that make it a standout animated film, and amongst the best of the year, not animated movies.
What do you mean by that?
I guess some plot points are familiar. Certain moments are generic. Not every little joke hits, but it didn't really have to. I mean, the majority of the movie works extremely well. I don't know how much I'm going to rewatch this compared to certain other Dreamworks movies that I love. Again, don't have that nostalgia for it, obviously, but it's such a beautiful and moving experience to watch. I can't wait to watch this with my daughter when she's older and won't get as freaked out by certain things she's seeing on screen. But man, that was really awesome to think about. And yeah, maybe you can ask yourself, well, if all the animals are working together, how are they eating? But then I'm starting to dig into the weeds a little bit, and that seems unnecessary. They're all vegetarians now. Before I give you my score, what's the best animated movie of the year? It's actually a tough question. And are you seeing The Wild Robot in theaters this weekend? Are you taking your family? All that good stuff. If you want to drop a like on this video, that helps a lot. The Wild Robot is a touching film brought to life by magnificent performances, stunning animation, and a story that hits every emotional note necessary to appeal to families of all ages. I was moved on a level that I never expected to be, and it's just an uplifting story that you're gonna want to see with the fam, the kids, the brothers, the sisters, grandma, take grandma. And, there's a little AI, artificial intelligence robot thing going on there, so that may freak you out, but it's not a bad thing, the way this movie portrays it. All right, thanks so much for checking this out, and I'll be reviewing Megalopolis soon, so buckle up for that one.